LinkedIn doesn't have to be as boring as you think it needs to be. Social media professionals in every company know the audience probably better than anybody else. And I really believe that social media professionals are future CMOs. I have learned so much just by listening to what everybody else in the business is saying.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Radical Content. So excited for our guest today, Melissa Dawson. She's the global social lead at Western Digital. If you're wondering if that means hard drives, yes, but it probably means a lot more. And we're going to learn a lot about it from Melissa. But today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn. We're going to talk about why B2B is better than B2C. Let's do it. We're going to make the case, Melissa. What do you think? Is that a good idea? Great.
Love it. Team B2B.
It's so good to have you on the show. We met recently at Social Media Week and we had a lot of fun.
So good to be here. I'm really excited.
So let's kind of dive right in. And first off, give us a quick setup. What is Western Digital? What is your kind of role, to give us a little bit of context for the conversation today?
Sure, absolutely. So Western Digital is actually now WD. We changed names in February, but we have been Western Digital for a very long time. Yes, we make hard drives, but we are a data storage company. So while yes, hard drives are the core of our business, we are also creating bigger solutions for hyperscalers that involve hard drives. But it could even be more like systems and packages that help enable hyperscalers, data centers, and help with this growing infrastructure in the data storage world.
Yeah, very cool. And as global social lead, you're the brand social person. Like, you're kind of over it all, driving it all. You've seen tons of growth, grown channels over 200,000, millions and millions of impressions, engagements rates kind of through the roof. You gave us all kind of the details about it, because some people are going to click on this. They're going to go, oh, this is a B2B episode. Maybe this one isn't for me. And I want you to tell you, like, hold tight, because I think that B2B social actually does some really amazing things that B2C can't do. And so let's start with, how did you take something that at its core, kind of a digital architecture company that's been historically in a kind of a product hard drive phase and is now into kind of data storage. How did you take a brand like that on its surface might not sound like the sexiest thing, and find a way to create a strategy that makes people care? I want to get kind of the behind the scenes of it all.
So about a little over a year ago, we were previously a company that included flash storage. So SanDisk spun off from us about a little over a year ago. And before that, our social strategy, which was when I joined right around that time, the strategy was this kind of blend between consumer and B2B marketing, and that included on social media. So there was a little bit of a disjointed effort. While on the more consumer focused channels like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, it made sense to have that kind of consumer messaging. Once we moved into this transformation of like what kind of a company we are, it was on me to determine like, well, what's the next step for social media and the strategy? I saw an opportunity for us to really lean in on LinkedIn. And that being the primary focus didn't mean we were going to completely disregard the other channels, but we really heavily leaned in on LinkedIn.
What was the impetus that made you think of that, right? Like, that didn't just happen overnight. You didn't just wake up and go, oh, LinkedIn, maybe we should do that, right? So like, what were the things that you were researching and you were thinking about, and maybe conversations you were having internally about this new audience that made you kind of land on LinkedIn as a potential opportunity?
I mean, up until that point, I'd been working with a lot of different brands, B2B and B2C. And it just seemed very natural for us to focus in on LinkedIn, with it being more of a social channel where people who are working during their working day, they are checking LinkedIn, they are getting inspiration with a career mindset and with a professional mindset. Not only that, but I found that, like, through research and also being in close contact with our LinkedIn ads rep, the targeting on LinkedIn for the B2B audience is really unmatched, because you can really target by profession, by their company, by the company size. Those are things that you can't really get on any of the other social channels. Also shifting content to be more of like a traffic driver into more of an engagement driver, and more about providing relevant content, relevant information to our target audience, which is very niche and very technical in nature.
How did you get down to that audience, right? Like, I think that's where a lot of people kind of get stuck, because they want to be for everyone. I think about that a little bit sometimes when even I'm doing what we do here. Am I for social media directors? Do I want to be for CMOs? Where do I want to be? How did you find a way to kind of get down and really decide who you're going after because they're on the channels?
There was a phase during that spinoff time period where we were developing that audience. And I can say, like, I'm not the sole person who's doing the audience research. Shifting from a very broad B2B scope to like any business that might need to buy a hard drive, which most businesses need hard drives in general, to where is the real revenue coming from and what is the bulk of our business and what do we plan the bulk of our business to be focused on? And that's really the future of AI businesses that have large data centers. So these are these like hyperscaler companies. I mean, the social networks themselves, Google and Meta, and knowing that those are driving the bulk of the revenue. So that's where we really want to start targeting in those audiences. And then it really got down to like getting into the nitty gritty details, because in LinkedIn, you have to be very specific and it's pretty manual with how you select by company, by title, et cetera. So we had to really like hone in on what those were very specifically.
It sounds like there's kind of a large kind of organic and paid aspect to this kind of strategy. You were kind of leaning into a little bit of, using engagement as the driver. How did you try to start using engagement as the driver on LinkedIn to drive some of these impressive numbers?
But previously we were creating more like, I guess teaser content to get people to go to our blog. And that really wasn't really driving a lot of engagement because people want to stay on the social channel that they're on. They don't necessarily want to be driven off. Doesn't mean there isn't a place for it, but I saw an opportunity for us to really grow through shifting that strategy to being more focused on content that is valuable to our customers without forcing them to leave the channel that they're on. Because you go to LinkedIn because you kind of want to like take a little break from the task you were doing and you want to just kind of see what's up and, with the people that you connect with. So that was a part of it. And then we've also started really incorporating thought leadership content as well from our executives and from spokespeople. And that is an ongoing strategy that we're starting to build. But we are seeing that, and it's pretty much a best practice in knowing that people want to see content from other people more than they want to see it from brands. It's just natural. And so we are not shifting, but we're adding into our content strategy that more robust, like thought leadership element, and also amplifying that as well on the WD LinkedIn page.
As you've kind of been diving into LinkedIn and kind of trying to figure out how it works for a brand, what types of contents have you found have been like, man, these have been our bangers, or these have been kind of ones that we've tried and then we've kind of sunset?
For us, carousel posts on LinkedIn have been a key driver for us. The reason being is that they allow us to take that thought leadership content and turn it into like really bite-sized chunks. And you get the general idea of what we're trying to say by swiping through a few slides, and then you can move on with your day. So the carousels are probably the top one. And we are starting to dabble more into video, especially with that thought leadership element. So those are top ones for us. And at the end of the day, the ones that drive the most engagement organically are posts that feature people. That's your employer branding content. That's here's an event we did and some kind of summary wrap up, things like that. But ultimately, people want to see people. They want to hear stories. Even on LinkedIn, even if it's a professional network, they still want those stories.
What are some things that you've tried and you've been like, that's not going to be it. We're going to have to move on.
Yeah, I have some, like, I've been asked to do content where, again, that kind of trying to push people to take an action to like go off site, to click a link and move off. And the content itself isn't really as robust or interesting. And it's trying to force you off the channel. Those are the ones that don't really do as well. Also reposts just don't really do that well in general. I've seen that across the board.
Yeah. Good to know. Yeah. I've definitely seen that a little myself. What is something, if you looked back to like yourself a year ago, or if someone else is stepping into a role of B2B and they wanted to tackle a kind of LinkedIn, they're like, we need to get better at LinkedIn. What are some of those kind of biggest learnings that you've had in the past, kind of year to 15 months doing this?
LinkedIn doesn't have to be as boring as you think it needs to be. Just like any other social channel, you need to be able to tell a story with your content. You need to, at the end of the day, give the viewer something of value to them. They're always wanting to know what's in it for them. And that doesn't change just because it's a B2B platform. If you are somebody who worked in B2C for a long time and you've only really managed like the Instagrams and the TikToks of the world, and you're moving into more LinkedIn focused, you have value by having that experience of working with those B2C brands and having that storytelling element. Bring that into the B2B space because it is severely lacking.
Like when I first started Maverick and left Universal, I kind of fell in love with social through LinkedIn. But I'm with you. I would challenge brands to say there's a way, like you said, to not be boring on LinkedIn. There's a way to show it with personality, to be human. There's even a way to be entertaining on LinkedIn. To be honest, like most of the content that's still out there on LinkedIn is kind of garbage. Like it just really is. So, but there is people there and there is attention there. So if you can find a way to do something different, you can actually find an audience. You can actually kind of build something there. And when I first started going into Maverick, and I took a shout out to this guy. He doesn't know who I am, but I was one of maybe the 800,000 people that took Justin Welsh's LinkedIn online course to talk about how do you write for LinkedIn. It almost reminded me about the practitioner side of social. Like I had kind of built a team at Universal and stepped away from a lot of the day-to-day. But it reminded me about the importance of hooks. It reminded me about things like how to get someone to click see more. Like that was the biggest hustle in the world. If you're creating really valuable content on LinkedIn, what if you post it at the same time every single day? Now, again, that might be hard for a company like WD or even a company like Universal. But if someone really loves what you're doing every single day, and they should if we're creating content, Justin Welsh found a way to really take what he was building and to schedule it, and people were looking forward to it and they wanted to be the first one to comment. And so I think LinkedIn opened up a whole new way. And then I just also think that like B2B social marketing can be cool. And I think, we're kind of seeing it all over. If I had to dovetail that into a question for you, I'd probably say like, why do you think brands are sleeping on LinkedIn? Why do you think it's something, again, it doesn't have to be TikTok, it doesn't have to be Instagram, but there can still be value in an audience. So if you were talking to a brand that wanted to kind of get into it and was kind of thinking, I'm not real sure, why do you think that they're sleeping on LinkedIn?
It's a huge untapped resource for brands. And I'm not just talking about B2B brands. I think there's a space for a lot of B2C brands to start breaking into it. First of all, they may have a very different strategy content-wise from what we're doing and from what B2B is doing. And they may not even want to create that much content for their page. But there is a huge opportunity in LinkedIn content creators that you could partner with that touch these touch points that people in the professional world are having that involve B2C brands. So for example, when we were at Social Media Week, I love to think about like, what am I going to wear to these events, right?
Same.
Event. And, right? Like, I don't know what people are wearing in New York City versus like Denver and what should I wear? So I think there's like an untapped opportunity for, as an example, LinkedIn content creators who are maybe setting fashion trends in the professional space that fashion brands could get in on, and they could sponsor content creators who are going to these events and they're like, hey, I'm wearing the Madewell shoes. Hey, I'm wearing the whatever brand jumpsuit, So I think there's like a huge space for that. I also think LinkedIn, what I'm seeing as far as like brand page goes for B2C brands is also having these like employee advocates speaking about their own personal growth. So like the social media manager at Sweet Lawrence is very active on LinkedIn and talks about her successes in social media marketing. Everyone in her orbit is now aware of this B2C brand because of her existence on the platform.
Man, I kind of think social media professionals might be keeping LinkedIn afloat. Like what I mean by that is like our community is out there creating content and building audiences individually for us as people. And yes, there is a hover for the brands that you work for. This is a little side rant, but I remember a brand that I worked for one time, and they were like, we can't let our employees talk on social media. We don't want people to know that we got these really talented people because they'll try to get poached. And man, what a broken old school mindset that freaking was. And what I used to tell them was, you know what? Because really it was a conversation about retention, and it was an old school mindset of how do you retain employees. And so I know we're way off topic here, Melissa, but let me just get this out there. I thought to myself, how crazy is this that you want them to be put in a hole and jailed to a desk and not let anybody know that they work for your company? Otherwise, someone might come and grab them and take them. And what I used to say is, what if you put them in front of camera? What if you celebrated them? What if you had all sorts of ways to make them feel special? Guess what that will do? it will make them never want to leave you because you're the wind beneath their wings. Kind of a random rant here in the middle of this LinkedIn
No.
chat. But I think you're right. The point that you're saying is that there's an opportunity for all people, anybody listening to this as an individual person, to use LinkedIn to build up your credibility, to build up your resume, and to be more credible. And hopefully that helps you on your career. Hopefully it helps you inside your office. Hopefully they're not thinking like, this old company was that I, kind of was connected to a long time ago. I think that you're right. And we're seeing it. I mean, we obviously have a mutual friend who I love to shout out on the show, Sarah Whittle, she's recently left and she's doing awesome stuff. But I think that you're right. And I think that brands need to find a way to do it more and better. I even think about kind of us at Maverick. Like, how can I get my whole team out there just talking about what they're doing every day? We've got a production manager on our team, Vicky, who just does it kind of organically and naturally. I've never really talked to her about it. I've never said this is important. It's not for Maverick. It's for her, but it's going to make her a better creator, and it's going to help her kind of, bring all of that insight back to the brand and back to the business. And so I think that's
there's
great.
a halo effect. Yeah, there's a halo effect on the brand, certainly. And then, as you build your own personal brand, I'm a big proponent of anybody building their personal brand and building their career through LinkedIn, whether, if it impacts the company you're working for, or if the goal is to, in a long-term way, grow, or at least be more seen. And I think it's definitely a huge mistake for companies to tell their employees that they can't do that they can't express themselves on a professional network. On the topic of the kind of content that works on LinkedIn for professionals versus brands, my personal experience is it doesn't have to be brilliant. It doesn't have to be a long essay. It doesn't have to be a thought piece, right? It can be a post that makes other people feel seen. Some of my best performing content from my personal LinkedIn page hasn't been like my thought pieces, which I do have from time to time, or my hot takes or whatever. It's the content that resonated with people and like, oh, I have felt this exact same way. I'm so glad somebody else feels the same way. It's validating, and it's also kind of funny at the same time because it's a meme. So it's entertaining, but also like deeply resonating emotionally.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let's talk about this one. I wanted to highlight one. So 2 years ago, it's been a while. You've had some bangers since then, but you posted something that had 4,000 likes, and you have like almost 9 or 10,000 kind of followers on LinkedIn. I won't read the whole thing, but we can pop it up screen. It's literally impossible to be a good social media manager. You remember this one?
I remember this one.
Like, we have to always be monitoring, but someone else always finds something you missed. You have to be young, but not too inexperienced. You can never say you want to be driving engagement. You have to say you want to be driving sales, but you also have to be growing the accounts. You have to have experience in every channel, but you can't be a jack of all trades, a master of none. You have to be an excellent copywriter, designer, videographer, editor, strategist, project manager, creative director. The list goes on and on. And honestly, there's a lot of like almost probably like therapy, human truths for social media professionals. But take me back to this moment. What were you doing? What's inside this post? Are you just in your room kind of thinking, I want to make something today, and I've got a hot take about how social media managers are getting crapped on? What's happening in your mind when you're writing this?
Well, the speech is from the Barbie movie, and that speech resonated with a lot of people. And it's it's impossible to be a woman. You have to be this. You have to be that. You can't be too this. You can't be do that. And so I took that and adapted it from a social media manager lens, because it's this constant paradox. It's this constant push and pull of like needing to be driving sales, but also driving engagement, which are two completely separate things and two very separate goals. And so I watched the Barbie movie and felt inspired. I felt like there's definitely an angle here from a social media perspective. And one of the things, like topics that come up all the time in the social media community on LinkedIn is like all of these frustrations within being that person. And I think I just pulled them all together into one piece. And I guess it really resonated with a lot of people.
It did. But what do you think about this post? Was it that really, because I like just breaking open a piece of content, right? Like, what do you think about this? Was it the writing? Was it the fact that it was probably a little trend-y, like you're playing off of the rise of the film itself? What do you think about this post kind of really took off that people can learn from?
I think it was an emotional thing. I think it was people finally feeling seen. The picture of America Ferrera's character catches people's eye because I'm like, I wonder what this is about. And then the very first line being, it's literally impossible to be a social media manager. That's that hook that makes you want to click see more and see what is what is this person talking about. But reading the full thing through, I mean, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of somebody who may have read it, I would have felt like knife to the heart, but in a good way. Like, I feel
Someone
so
finally said it.
validated. Yes. Someone finally said it and they put it all together. You recently had Marin
Yeah.
on your show. She told me that she printed that out and put it on her desk.
Oh, that's
That
so cool.
that because it resonated with
But
her so
like
much.
that is such next level content, right? When you can get someone to not just like it, not just repost it, but someone out there is taking that piece of content and printing it out and putting it on their wall. I love that so much. And I saw it. It was pinned on your site, and I was like, we got to talk about that. As you've been doing LinkedIn more, what's the biggest thing LinkedIn has taught you about marketing, or about social marketing? Is there something you've learned or thought differently, having to kind of lean into a platform that maybe is not the one that everybody kind of starts with, that you've kind of learned and taken into other aspects of your social marketing professional career?
There's some things that are very much in common between LinkedIn and the other channels, and there are some things that are very unique to LinkedIn and unique to B2B. I feel with the other channels, there is this need to constantly be outdoing yourself, and this need to constantly be creating net new, fresh content. And that's not necessarily untrue on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn has an interesting algorithm that makes the content have a longer shelf life. And you also have to think about that too when you're creating the content. I have seen posts that are very relevant and of the time, and it gets a lot of engagement at the very beginning. But content that is actually valuable and evergreen, LinkedIn continues to share that with your audience if it's good enough, if it's valuable enough. That was something that was a bit different. I'm going to rewind back to the question. You said, like, what have you
Yep.
learned specifically about social marketing on LinkedIn? I don't have like a specific thing that I learned on social marketing that stands out, any one particular thing, but I will say that my time being spent on the platform, and I have spent a lot more time on the platform in the past couple of years, with that being a more
Yeah.
focused, channel for my work. I'm also spending a lot of time browsing content there, and I have learned so much about social media and it's something that I've been doing for 15 years. I've been in social media business for 15 years, and I feel like the past 2 years of me really diving into it, I have learned so much just by listening to what everybody else in the business is saying, and being on top of trends and being on top of these channel changes. So I have drawn so much value as a professional, not just from, my personal brand, but from engaging with other people's content and learning from them.
This was something I saw that you liked. That's somebody else, another person that I've had on the show before, Eric Stark, who's now was at the NFL, now he's at Slate. I share the perspective of others that social media professionals might be one of the most undervalued people inside of businesses, and I'd be interested in kind of your take on all of that.
Yes. The joke is that the people running the content and running the social channels are interns. They have to be very young. So, consequently, there is a thought that they're maybe not as experienced and maybe not as business oriented, especially because the goal is around creating content that is just interesting, tells stories, gets engagement, but it's not necessarily driving sales directly. And that's a misconception. And that leads to a lot of devaluing in the work that social media professionals are doing. But I would like to debate that point very strongly in saying that the social media professionals in every company know the audience probably better than anybody else. Probably even better than the people doing the research on the audience, like through, data research and surveys and things like that. You are seeing firsthand the way your customers are responding to you as a brand, what they want, but not just your customers, but what's going on in the world, and like the pulse of the conversations that people are having on social, and just the general feeling of people in any given space, right? So there's this awareness that social media managers and social media professionals have that is truly undervalued. And I really believe that social media professionals are future CMOs, because you are driving so many different things at the same time. You are managing multiple channels. You are having to be both creative and strategic at the same time. And you represent the brand on a really visible level, the most visible level, probably in most cases. So I think there's a lot there with like, if you want to grab a nice little clip from that, it's like social media professionals are the next CMOs.
Great. Love it. All right. We're going to go into a quick lightning round for you. How much time a week do you spend on LinkedIn, if you had to guess?
2 hours? Oh, a week. Sorry. No. Probably like 10 to 12 hours a week.
That's awesome. Let's see if you get this one. You got to pick one or the other. So line breaks or writing to get people to click see more.
Writing to click people to see
Yeah,
more.
same here. Favorite follow on LinkedIn today for social?
Sarah Whittle.
Oh, look at her. She's getting 2 shout outs. Best advice to social media manager team of 1.
Get all the tools that you possibly can. Get all the resources that you possibly can.
What is played out on LinkedIn? What is something that was happening that's like, yeah, let's stop doing this?
When any post starts with this is a masterclass in XYZ.
Oh my God. The amount of master classes and frameworks. I literally was doing a bunch of content for the past couple of years, and earlier this year, I was like, I feel like I'm becoming like tips framework guy, and that's not who I want to be. So yeah, I get that. What is your hot take about LinkedIn, social, or marketing today? It's just burning inside of you. Got to get out.
This is social in general. It applies to brands that are active on TikTok. So I have a hot take that if you are a brand that's commenting on creators' content and the creator's post is going viral, and by virtue your comment is going viral, I believe that you should compensate the creator.
Ooh, man, that is
I think I'm going to get in trouble for that one.
That's so next level. Oh my gosh. So you're saying that brands, I didn't even know this hustle. So brands are commenting on viral content to get kind of free, cheap awareness out of that. And, you know, they probably, the creator's probably getting some benefit if the brands have an audience too, right? But you're saying that you're riding on the coattails of them, and they you should get some sort of compensation, man.
Yes,
yeah, that
100%.
is a hot take. I don't know if I agree with that, but I like.
I know. I don't think a lot of social media people agree with me because that would require a lot of logistics.
It's the paperwork and logistics. Yeah, if I could just like Venmo someone $50, I would do that. But the time it would take to make that case. But I like it. I like a hot take.
Or at least, you know, giving the creator some kind of product or something as a thank you, right? Yeah, because I while I'm a social media marketer and I'm on the side of brands in general, I'm also an advocate for content creators. I'm an advocate for people over brands, and so I believe that if you are using someone else's content to elevate your brand without compensation, I don't think that's fair.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to think about this one all day. Melissa, this was so much fun. Thank you for teaching us about LinkedIn. Thank you for going deep on B2B. Hopefully we gave B2B their flowers today, and anybody that's out there that's in that space can know that. But yes, if you haven't yet, find Melissa Dawson on LinkedIn. She is a great follow, and we're just so thankful for the time today, Melissa. It was fun.
Thank you so much. I'm thankful as well, and thank you so much.
We'll see everybody. That's another episode of Radical Content. We'll see you next time. Bye.